Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another of the Lord Mayor's Knowledge Miles uh, online lectures. I'm Mark Huxley. I'm going to be hopefully facilitating you successfully through today. Today's topic, Insurtech, how it's transforming insurance innovation. I'll give you a quick rundown of how the session's going to run. Um, I'll give a little introduction to Melissa in a moment, and she'll then speak for about 20 or so minutes, which will give us lots of time for Q&A. So please get the questions coming in. Just to direct you, there's a box on the right hand of the screen, which is a chat box with a question mark in it. Please only use that box for questions. No good putting hands up or using the general chat box. That won't be monitored and we'll miss your question. We'll try and get through as many of your questions as we can in the session, but fear not if time gets against us, because sometimes they can be quite busy sessions. They will be shared with Melissa afterwards, and it will be in Melissa's gift to share them onwards. So as you'll see, the session's being recorded, and we have a dedicated YouTube channel where you'll be able to go back and rewatch it at your leisure and share with lots of others. So conscious of time, I'm just going to very quick introduction to Melissa. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, Melissa. I normally do a kind of proper little brief bio, but I've seen Melissa's slides and she's doing that herself. So I'm not going to duplicate anything here, but just to suffice to say that she's a leading voice in the Insurtech sector, and its leading trade association, its only dedicated trade association. I will fess up to my conflict. I've got more than a personal interest in this because insurance is my own sector, and as an entrepreneur, I'm actually an Insurtech co-founder myself, and I actually support the sector, and hopefully a small way support Melissa as well as an advisor, mentor, Ned, principally at the Lloyd's Innovation Lab. So that's enough of me. Next voice, over to you, Melissa. Enjoy your lecture.
Thank you so much, Mark, for that very, very kind introduction. And I am really pleased that you are chairing this session today, because it's great to have somebody who really understands the sector as well as you do, to be on board. So I have a few thank yous. I'd like to thank the Lord Mayor, Professor Michael Manelli, for inviting me to give this talk as part of the Knowledge Miles series in association with Gresham College. I also want to thank the Worshipful Company of Insurers, of which I'm very proud to be a part, for supporting this event. And finally, thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy day to join this call. And I hope you can all see the slides that I've got my title slide up there now. Not hearing otherwise, I'm going to now move on to the agenda, what I'm going to cover in the next 20 minutes or so, before you fire off your questions. Actually, keep firing them off all the way through, so that they're there when we're ready for them. By the end, I think that you should have a much better idea of what Insurtech is, why it's innovative, and its potential to transform the insurance industry for good. So I'm going to start with a bit of background about the insurance sector, define what Insurtech is. I'm going to share some key facts and examples, and then outline some of the opportunities and challenges for the future. So a bit about me and why I'm talking to you today about this topic. So I've spent over 25 years in and around the insurance sector for my sins. Some of it right at the coalface between insurers and consumers. And I've seen firsthand what works and what doesn't. So over the years, I've become a passionate advocate for change in the insurance sector, especially the power of technology to improve the customer journey and really make things fairer for all. So I became CEO of Insurtech UK last September, and so far it's been a dream job because it gives me the opportunity to speak up about a highly innovative and entrepreneurial sector that has some really great people in it. And when I'm not doing Insurtech, I'm also passionate about playing guitar and sailing, although not at the same time. And hopefully I'll see some of you at our Insurtech Rocks event on Wednesday. So let me just say a few words now about Insurtech UK. As Mark said, we're the only trade association in the UK dedicated to Insurtech. It was set up in 2018 by Insurtech founders and now has more than 140 member companies and more than 50 partners and insurers, and we are growing. And our purpose is to make the UK the global hub for insurance innovation. And our 4 key objectives are to 1, promote Insurtech, 2, engage with policymakers, 3, connect members, and 4, deliver events. And on the right-hand side, you can see some of our members and partners. So before we delve more into Insurtech, for those in the audience from outside the insurance sector, let me set the scene on what the overall insurance industry looks like in the UK, so you can see where Insurtech fits in. So the UK has a very proud heritage of insurance for over 300 years, starting with Lloyd's Coffee House in the 17th century. Now it's one of the largest markets in the world, only behind the US and China in terms of size, and it is the largest in Europe. The size of the market is measured in tens of billions, and it contributes billions to the UK economy through tax, exports, and employment. Its specialty market is the world's largest. But traditional insurance companies have been slow to embrace technological change, and processes can still be very slow and cumbersome. The loyalty penalty and poor value insurance like PPI have eroded consumer trust, resulting in more and more regulation that some say stifles innovation. Insurers are also hampered by operating on legacy computer systems that cannot keep pace with digitalization. So if the UK wants to remain the global epicenter for insurance, then there needs to be a solution. So in comes Insurtech. You've all probably by now heard of fintech, which refers to companies that are disrupting and transforming the finance sector using technology, making payments and transactions easier than before. Well, in 2016, the term Insurtech was coined, which does the same thing for insurance. In simplest terms, Insurtech can be defined as a business that uses technology to solve insurance problems. Now, I'm sure there are many other definitions out there as well, but I'm going to use this one. And Insurtechs are using all kinds of technology, AI, big data, machine learning, chatbots, Internet of Things, parametric, apps, blockchain. I wanted to say all those great buzzwords. And they're doing this to transform insurance. A few examples, like using your smart watch to determine how fit you are and price your health insurance accordingly. Or using a telematics black box in your car to monitor your driving and base your motor insurance premiums on how well you actually drive. Or uploading photos of accident damage to an app, which is then assessed by AI and your claim is paid instantly. So these are just some examples of how Insurtechs are using technology to disrupt the traditional insurance model. So let's have a look at what constitutes an Insurtech business. Again, in simplest terms, there are 2 basic types. Those that are regulated to do insurance activities like underwriters and distributors, and those that aren't. And we can call them value chain enablers. Generally, they provide software as a service, or SaaS. Broadly speaking, about half the Insurtechs fall into the insurance category and half in the purely software category. Within the insurance category, these can be divided further into property and casualty, or P&C, insurance for personal lines, or P&C for SMBs and commercial lines, and life and health. In the UK, the overwhelming majority of regulated Insurtechs are either MGAs, which stands for Managing General Agents who underwrite on behalf of an insurance carrier, or distributors distributing insurance on behalf of a carrier. A carrier can also be called an insurer. And there's currently only one regulated Insurtech carrier in the UK, and that is Lemonade. So those are some of the categories. How large is the insurtech sector in the UK? Well, last year, Insurtech UK worked on a report with our principal partner, McKinsey, on the state of the UK insurtech sector. And on the next few slides, I'm going to share some fascinating facts and figures from that report. So these are some of the top line figures, which I think are really testament to the strength of the sector. So in the UK, you have some 280 insurtech firms valued at 20 billion. And the UK is number one in having the highest density of insurtechs per capita in the world. As well as that, going forward, London has 5 unicorns, which are companies with an over 1 billion valuation, second only to Silicon Valley. And there are 8 unicorns across the UK as a whole, more than the rest of Europe combined. 1/3 are based outside of London, and 2/3 of staff are under 40. So really young and vibrant. And this is in contrast to the traditional insurance sector, where the average age is higher. And we'll come to the opportunities and challenges in just a moment. So looking across the rest of the world, as you can see from this map, Europe is second only to North America in terms of the number of insurtech businesses it has. And on the bar chart on the right-hand side, you can see the UK comes top in Europe. And then looking at the regional picture, over 1/3 of insurtech firms are outside of London, with concentrations in the south, in the north of England and Wales, although London is still by far the largest centre. So we've talked a lot about the success of the UK insurtech scene, which has occurred over a few short years. But why is this important? And what are the benefits of insurtech? Well, I'm going to try to summarize these now. Better customer journey, making it faster and easier to obtain cover and make a claim. More innovative and flexible products, such as use-based insurance, so that you only pay for how much you use, like a car, rather than a fixed time period. Automatic claims payments, triggered by, for example, a sensor. So it doesn't require you to do anything except install a sensor in your property. And when that sensor is triggered by, let's say, a flood, then you'll get paid automatically. It also provides cover for underserved sectors where previously insurance was not available or too expensive, such as telematics insurance, making motor insurance more affordable for young drivers. There's also more accurate pricing of risk and assessing damage using data and AI. Improved transparency of cover, so people can use apps to interact with their cover, know how a bit more about their risks. And finally, using technology, and I really like this one the most, to prevent or minimize risk. So people can actually take steps to reduce the price of their premium and, importantly, live healthier lives. And of course, all this technology saves money for both the insurer and the customer, which I think is really a critical point here. So what I want to do now is look at some examples of insurtech companies that do just these things. So let's start with Lemonade. Lemonade are a digital insurance for renters, and it holds the record for the fastest claim paid in the world in 3 seconds. I don't suppose many of you have had one of your insurance claims paid in 3 seconds. That's certainly a pretty impressive record. And Lemonade also reverses the traditional insurance model by treating premiums as belonging to the customer, with any surplus left over after claims are paid to be used for good causes chosen by customers. Then there's ManyPets, which is a unicorn, and it has created an award-winning digital pet insurance product, which makes the customer journey much easier. And it does this by analyzing millions of online searches to identify gaps in the market and customers' frustrations with existing pet insurance. Then there's Pickle, which is insurance for the sharing economy, such as Airbnb landlords, who previously could not obtain cover from the traditional insurance market. ISI, they use satellite weather data to provide real-time insights into floods and wildfires, accurately assessing potential damage down to individual houses. And I've actually seen a demo of their system, and it's really incredible. ClearSpeed uses AI and voice analytics to detect fraud, and you only have to answer just 4 yes/no questions, and the software can alert to a false claim. LACA offers crowd insurance for bikes based on the true cost of claims, resulting in full transparency at a lower cost. So if there's no claims in a month, then no premiums are paying. And then ULife. It uses gamification and analytics to encourage healthier living by creating incentives for well-being, such as step competitions. So hopefully this gives you a better idea of some of the ways that insurtechs really provide tangible benefits and are transforming the insurance industry for good. So let's just have a look at what are the factors underpinning the UK success in this sector. These are fivefold. One is access to talent. There's a deep insurance talent pool in the UK due to its long insurance heritage, its wide network of universities, and it being seen as an attractive location for international entrepreneurs to settle. The UK also has underwriting capacity, so there's a large underwriters who are already familiar with working with MGAs and are willing to diversify. It also has a supportive regulatory regime. For example, we have a regulatory sandbox in the UK launched in 2016 by the Financial Conduct Authority, which allows insurtechs to experiment before they need to become regulated. Also, there's a new competitiveness and growth objective for the regulator, which should hopefully ease the regulatory burden even further. Also, the UK has access to investment because it acts as a hub for large US venture capital firms, and London is the largest VC hub in Europe. And finally, it has a large and sophisticated customer base, the most sophisticated personal lines insurance market in the world because of its high penetration of digital channels, its highly competitive landscape with lots of new market entrants and challengers that have emerged over the past decade. So all these factors really combine to make the UK a real powerhouse for insurtech. But that's not to say there aren't, with these huge opportunities bring challenges. And as part of that McKinsey report that we worked on with them, Insurtech UK surveyed 50 of our members, and this is what they said. So they said the biggest opportunity for them was to expand into new geographies. And the biggest challenge was access to funding. So despite what I've said about the UK being a hub for US VCs, it's still difficult to lure them away from fintech in order to invest in insurtech, because insurtech is still not very widely understood, although Insurtech UK is trying to change that. So what next for the insurtech sector? Given the challenges and opportunities that I've laid out, which were raised by our members, Insurtech UK has launched its own policy roadmap of 11 recommendations for government. So one of these is we want to see a regulatory regime that really enables new entrants, enlarging the sandbox for experimentation, and really creating a world-leading environment for insurtech companies to thrive. And this includes making any new AI regime proportionate so that UK insurtechs using AI can continue to attract investment. And speaking of investment, we also want to see an investment environment that facilitates funding. So we're seeking small but important tweaks to tax, investment and R&D rules, further government-backed grants from Innovate UK, and hopefully funding arising from the Mansion House reforms to the way pension funds can invest in startup companies. And we also want to see more action to unlock opportunities to scale, as our members want to do. So we want greater access to global markets and more Insurtech corridors, like the one between the UK and the state of Connecticut, which Insurtech UK actually helped to set up, which provides a soft landing for UK companies wishing to expand in the US, of which a large number of them do. So we believe that all these things will really help to grow the UK Insurtech sector even further. So in conclusion, I thought it was only fitting, as this is a lecture organized by the Lord Mayor, to recognize the support that the City of London has given to Insurtech. Overall, the city is clearly committed to the growth of its financial and professional services sectors, of which insurance and Insurtech forms an important part. And it has supported Insurtech UK as an organization by engaging in regular dialogue with us, and where it's still in continual dialogue, and also supporting our events, for which I'm very, very grateful. And the city also works with the Department for Business and Trade to promote UK Insurtech abroad, most recently in Connecticut, and recently had a roundtable with other counterparts in the US. So I'm really hopeful about that too. And finally, the city has launched very, very recently an SME strategy to support small businesses and entrepreneurs in the city, including Insurtech, with a host of measures to increase access to finance, provide tangible assistance in terms of office space and mentors and so on. And I know that this is a subject very close to our chair, Mark Huxley's heart, who's now appeared on the screen, as he is the current master of the Worshipful Company of Entrepreneurs. And he was involved in developing this new strategy, which is fantastic. So I think this is a really good point to hand back to Mark to cover anything I've missed and to open the floor to questions. So, but before I do that, let me just show you our contact details. If you're interested in finding out more or joining Insurtech UK, then here's how you can do it. So thank you so much for listening, and please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and let's continue the conversation.
Melissa, thank you. Well, thank you for the shout out at the end as well. I think that SME strategy across the whole of fintech, but yeah, in particular, insurance is going to be very, very good. So we've got some questions coming in. I'll spare names off a couple of them because actually a couple of people want to reach out to you directly and they're interested around investment. So just an anonymous shout out to the people that put them up there. I won't push your name across here in the questions, but they'll get passed on to Melissa. So funny you touched on insurance fraud, and it was almost quite a spooky piece of timing because Charles Vermont put a question up saying, does Insurtech have any answers for insurance fraud? Which you gave a very brief resume to for the ClearSpeed, the one company we're talking about, but more generally, I mean, if you're changing the distribution and the way insurance is being sold, and if it's being done online and kind of gamified and gone away from the traditional way that things would have been done, fraud is a slightly different animal now. So have you got any broader comments about where fraud prevention fits into the Insurtech value cycle?
Yes, Mark, fraud is a really big chunk of what some Insurtechs are focused on. There's an actual conference that I attend, which is just focused on fraud and claims, and loads of our members attend. I gave an example earlier about the ClearSpeed and how they tackle fraud. There's some incredible technology out there now to tackle fraud. Some of it comes from military backgrounds, and it's now being redeployed in a different way. But I think that's one of the most promising areas for Insurtech growth, and actually it's one of the areas that has the most investment at the moment, because clearly I don't have the latest figures to hand, but um, the it costs the UK insurance industry billions a year in paying out claims that are potentially fraudulent. So anything to tackle this can result in huge savings. And that benefits all of us. So yes is the answer, the short answer. There's loads of insurtechs focused on fraud.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to wrap two questions together. They're slightly, to my opinion, a nuance of the same thing. So Richard Burge asks, I want to ask how tech can enable features of the insured to be reflected in premiums. Discrimination on the basis of protected characteristics is banned. Brackets, is it? Is that a thing? Well, protected characteristics are, but whether it's banned or not. But surely there's a component of understanding the true risk of the individuals, and so the precision premium that should be charged through AI as a potential tool for it. And as I said, I wanted to wrap that with a question from Jonathan Booth, who said, how is Insurtech helping the circa 20 million people in financially vulnerable circumstances who are priced out of existing products or who are faced with a poverty premium because they have to pay monthly rather than annually? So it's kind of about how do we look across the diaspora of the UK population and where's the benefit that Insurtech is bringing to them?
Yeah, so I think that the thrust of the second question is about underserved markets. I think it's something that I touched on as being one of the benefits of Insurtech because, and I think the first question was a bit about personalization of risk pricing. So there's a kind of connection between those two things.
Exactly that.
So,
and it was sorry, Melissa. Very specifically, Jonathan was asking about financially vulnerable circumstances.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. That is something that technology can clearly provide a benefit because if you have products that instead of trying to provide this all singing, all dancing cover, Insurtech is very good at sort of lasering in on and providing a piece of cover or bit of cover in a niche area. And I was talking earlier about sensors for flood to tackle flood risk. And a lot of people, this is something where let's take a small business which may not be able to afford full indemnity of their potential risk in this regard. But if they have they can agree a fixed lump sum payment if a flood should occur, which could cover them for some of their losses, then this is an incredibly helpful thing for and making it much more affordable. And you can extrapolate that across other types of risk. So it's about making Insurtech is very much about making insurance more affordable, more focused on the risks people really need to cover, and giving them an options to just take out sort of niche bits of insurance that they really need without having this big comprehensive cover, which they may not need or may not be able to afford.
Yeah, I think a good exemplar of that is the work that Armour Karma are doing with.
I was just thinking of them actually, Mark. Yeah. Yes, about insurance for students and student accommodation. Exactly. And again, that's a perfect example actually of an area which is really poorly served at the moment, and it's an area where really good affordable insurance is really critical. So that's a great one. A great minds think alike there, Mark.
Well, funny enough, there is a question. Oh, I'll have to come find it. I don't want to get lost in the other questions about why there are so few products on the market. So anyway, maybe we'll come back to that in a second. Again, just kind of there's a question in here about why is sorry, this is from Hugh Morris. Why is Insurtech so far behind fintech with very few products in the market to date? There we go. That was the question I was looking for. So, is that a thing? I mean, I'll be honest, I don't recognise that comment, but then we're kind of inside the tent, not outside. But to you.
Yeah, I guess there's a bit of a sense. I mean, there's a sense, I guess, when you're talking about the city and you're talking, the first thing people think about is finance. And then insurance sort of always seems to come second in people's minds. And that's certainly true. And when you're having conversations with government or even the city, it always seems to be in the next thing people think about, not the first thing. And then that's I think a similar situation with Insurtech versus FinTech. So that's why Insurtech UK as an organization exists, is really to say, hang on a minute, Insurtech is not just some subset of FinTech. It's actually something in its own right, with its own issues, its own challenges, its own potential, which is really large, actually. And it shouldn't be subsumed under under that category. With FinTech is very different, very different things going on in FinTech, different players, different issues. So we're really keen to make it a sector in its own right. The trouble with that is that a lot of investors are focused on FinTech. And so you have to say to them, well, hang on, there's something over here that is really interesting. Do you know about, how Insurtech is transforming insurance, and that they may not have such a great understanding about how insurance works, all the concepts about pooling of risk, and so it's sort of some of these changes that Insurtech is making it doesn't resonate as much. So yeah, there's a little bit of a challenge here, and that's really why I was so keen to give this talk today.
That was when we were having our chat planning for this, we were talking about some of the challenges of scaling some of these businesses, and comment was passed that actually there is just not quite the right level of engagement from the incumbent insurers that should be investing in these businesses to help drive them on to get to a scale where they can work more closely with the larger incumbents, but also kind of find their own place. So it's almost like there's a slight foot on the head, keeping it subscale at the moment. I thought it was as it was your comment, and I thought it was a really interesting comment. And so I don't know whether I've said enough about it, or you got one or two more words in the context of trying to get it to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is I didn't want to dwell too long on those challenges slide, because we could be here all day. But one of the biggest challenges our members have identified is really trying to partner with existing carriers or existing insurers, because that's really where things are moving to in this sector, rather than at first it was all about disrupting and insurtechs providing their own on a journey to becoming their own insurance companies in the future. It's now more about partnering with existing players, existing incumbents. But the worst thing in the world is a slow no. So, meeting up and trying to find the right person in a big insurance company, and spending months developing a relationship, even years, to then be told by the end, well, actually, we're not really interested in partnering with you, is it's unsustainable. Insurtechs can't exist, can't carry on without with such slow moving decision making. So I think what we'd like to do at Insurtech UK is really speed up that decision making, make these introductions, connecting the right people, so that insurers can see, well, okay, these are really interesting insurtechs. We want to work with them and get it moving. So we're planning to have a partnerships day this autumn where we can do just that.
Very good, very good. Quite a few questions looking the other way down the kind of insurance lens at complex specialty risks rather than the high volume kind of general risks sitting out there. And it's, where does Insurtech fit into that? And a kind of specific thread about, can it help reduce the compliance burden when you're writing high conduct risks?
So this is another area where Insurtech really excels because it's really good at finding those niche areas, particularly in the specialty markets, where it can really speed up some of the processes in those lines, and really focus its efforts on making some changes that can really make this area even more profitable. So and also there's quite a few insurtechs at the moment focused on reinsurance as well. I know that there's some incredible sort of platforms that have been developed that make the follow lines incredibly easy, where you just have an algorithm of parameters, and then reinsurers can instantly follow. And so this has been a very promising area of development. One of our it's called Smart Follow, and it's the insurtech is called insurtechs, and so they've been very they're doing very well in this area. So it's definitely a good space for insurtechs to develop into.
Cool. And I put a shout out because of the Lloyd's Lab where Insurtech went through. There's a very, very vibrant community in there. So all those with an interest should go seek out the Lloyd's Lab and see what they get up to.
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, yes, we should mention Lloyd's Lab because it's a great accelerator incubator for these new cutting edge insurtechs to work with different parts of the Lloyd's market. And it's going from strength to strength. I think they're on cohort 13 now.
13, exactly that. Yeah.
So it's if you haven't been to one of their demo days, I would definitely go along to that. But obviously, there's a bigger world of insurtech out there beyond those who want to work with Lloyd's and the specialty markets. There's insurtechs that want to work on life and health, personal lines, and so Insurtech UK is membership is much broader than those Lloyd's ones. So there's so much more potential than just the specialty markets.
Well, I think truthfully boundless. We only mentioned the Lloyd's bit because we were talking about the specialty complex risks. So there's a question from Toby Steer saying, do many of these insurtech startups follow the common startup pattern of quick scaling and a swift exit of the founders by selling to the bigger companies or biggest companies in the industry? Does this pose a threat to long-term innovation, or is it one of the big pull factors for entrepreneurs? Thanks.
Oh, great question. I think it's sort of the answer sort of in the question, really. I think it's a bit of both. I mean, definitely there is that pattern that we're seeing with the startups. And it is, what happens is it seems is when these successful startups get bought and the founder exits, they set up another one. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And in terms of the long term, I think the long term innovation carries on from that point, whether it's in a new insurtech or within that incumbent, taking on that technology and really embedding it. I think that's we want to see both of those things happening.
Okay. Again, a couple of kind of definition points here. Surely insurtech is just a way of saying a company is applying technology to the insurance industry, and if a technology reduces the risk mitigation in a specific area, is it called insurtech? So just a bit of a, should we get caught by the name, or is the name a bit of a side issue to the fabric of what's going on?
Yeah, I think there are some people that think, well, insurtech is so broad as to be meaningless. Does it turn people off? Isn't what most insurance companies doing now insurtech? I mean, there's lots of people saying these things. I think there's still value in defining insurtech as something that is, represents a group of businesses who are trying to do things differently, and actually usually for the, primarily to improve everybody's lives. So and make the sector ultimately modernized and more profitable. So I think there's value in sort of trying to define it as a separate group of companies, until all of this technology is truly embedded in our existing traditional insurance market. I think there's still a way to go there.
Okay. A question from Abo from UK Insurtech or Insurtech UK perspective. Any comments about the change in attitude that this is bringing to the insurance industry? And I'm guessing this is around reputation.
Yeah, again, I think that insurance. Does anyone get excited about buying insurance? Do people look out, and aspire for careers in insurance? I'd love to see a day when those things were the case. And I think InsurTech really has the power to make that happen. People want to go into tech careers, and InsurTech careers are incredibly, an incredibly entrepreneurial experience and doing some really exciting things with AI particularly. And I think people do want to go into those careers. And I think customers do want to engage if they knew what, how they can lead fitter lives using their smart watches, or, if insurers could just share all of that data that they have about people and help them unlock what they're doing and understand the risks in that are posed by the things that they do, I think people would really embrace it. So that's why I think InsurTech is something that is really trying to make things better for everybody.
Well said. Well said. A very unfair question from Barbara Schurer, so I'm definitely going to ask you this one. Which of the insurtechs you've mentioned are actually making oh, sorry, I should reframe that. I put my own words in. Which of the insurtechs you have mentioned are already making profit?
Well, I'm not sitting here with a big long list that I'm going to read out, but there is a new and a more intense focus on profitability over growth nowadays, which is challenging to startups. But I think there are some who are doing well in this area. I'm not going to name names because that's not really for this particular talk today, but there are, some really phenomenally successful insurtechs, and then there are others who are struggling. So it's a real mix, and Insurtech UK is here really to help all of the insurtechs to succeed, and that's why we exist.
Okay. And again, I'm sorry for a personal comment, but I think profit's the one thing, but it's also helping move the needle of customer expectation, which is making incumbents also reframe their value chain. So the reputational equity and the profit and everything else that comes out the back of that, I think, is correlated. You've clearly motivated Charles Vermont because he has another question for you. InsurTech will only revolutionize the market when it can underwrite and issue a policy at zero marginal cost, a capability not allowed by the regulator.
Is that a question or a general comment?
It's a general comment, but whether there is a comment over the top of that of a yes, I agree, no, I don't, or a different inflection to it.
Well, look, I think that that is one of the big advantages of the tech, is to save the costs associated with all that manual processing, to make things slicker and make it automatic, and so which customer wouldn't want to not have to fill in a question set or a proposal form and not actually have to submit a claim and fill in a claim form? Who wouldn't want that? This is the power of the data that exists on our phones. That's data that's out there already, or that we could consent to sharing, is enormous. And so why not just make it easier for everybody, frictionless, and save a huge amount of money in the bargain?
Okay, thank you, and that is absolutely perfect timing because we're running down to fumes on this. So we're running. don't know, there's normally a slide that comes up with the upcoming events as a promo. I don't know if our friends in the background, there we go, as if by magic. So I'm not going to read those to you because we're all perfectly capable of looking at those, except for the top one, which I'm hosting tomorrow. So that's definitely another one to tune into. So it's just some thank yous. There is actually a direct thank you from Amit on there to you and I for it, for what we've done, and the Lord Mayor for putting this together. So thank you for your kind words, Amit. But really, very special thanks to you, Melissa, for coming along, sharing time, sharing such fascinating insights and the great work you're doing at Insurtech UK. So anybody listening that is in there that doesn't really know it, do go find out about it. It's such a superb organisation. Always a thank you to the Lord Mayor for creating this wonderful set of learning and education, and I always put entertainment in there as well, because having listened to many of these, I find them absolutely fascinating. So thank you to Lord Mayor Manelli, ZN for producing the series. That work never goes unnoticed. To you, the audience, for coming and join us and staying attentive. You'll be pleased to know we got through literally every one of the questions, so that was perfectly done. So thank you for being the perfect audience and doing that for you. So that's us done. So it's just really to wish you all a very happy rest of your week, and thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, all. It's been a pleasure.